Boston, I'm sorry you have only one eye, but I'm glad you have only one tongue. He said so many things that I came prepared to say, and I want you to know I appreciate it very much. He's been in the fight for 30 years, from the beginning to the end. And Buddy's right. When I became governor in 1972, we were collecting 25 cents a barrel on the production of oil. I changed the system to 12.5% of value. At that time, oil was selling for $8 to $10 a barrel. And I predicted at the time that someday it would be $100 a barrel, and they laughed and joked and kidded me. But in the last decade, it's averaged $89 a barrel, and many times it was over $100 a barrel. And if that don't get you, you notice how the pump runs the next time you fill your car. And Foster's right. Exxon's making $4 billion a month. When I became governor, we were producing 300 million barrels of oil a year. Last year it was 77 million, and it's projected to run down and deplete by 1.4% for the next 10 years. So what we need to do is take advantage of the production while we have it. And unfortunately, this present governor wants to do whatever the oil companies want without concern for the people. There's a new fight coming up, new opportunities called fracking. It's going to bring untold wealth to this state. But we must be vigilant and make sure that we move immediately to take advantage of this new development, this new technology, which is going to bring to the surface of the earth from 30,000 feet below the surface this distillate oil and natural gas. It's an opportunity waiting for us to take advantage of. Let's see. In 2014, just a couple of months ago, Gallup made a survey of people in America, and you'll be surprised this. 47% of those surveyed are either registered Democrats or say they're leaning to be Democrats, and 40% say they're registered as Republican or leaning towards Republican. What I'm trying to say to you is that there's a great opportunity for us to recognize the Republican Party is against immigration reform, it's against farm subsidies, it's against helping poor folks, it's against the minimum wage. The Republican Party is against the people of this country who need help from government. The party started in 1792 when Jefferson and Madison got together because they were worried about Alexander Hamilton's Federalist policies and formed the first smidging of the Democratic Party, not called that at the time. It wasn't until 1820 when Andrew Jackson was elected the first Democratic president who stood for strict interpretation of the Constitution and limited government. Now people ask, why is the donkey the symbol? Let me tell you why. I'm one of the few people who remember this. It was in 1820. John Adams was running against Andrew Jackson. And at one time he referred to Andrew Jackson as an ass. Now being like Edwin Edwards, instead of getting offended and angry about that, he picked it up and made lemonade out of a lemon. He started referring to himself as a donkey. Stubborn, mule-headed, but set in his ways and sticking to his principles. And then some years later, a political cartoonist named Nash drew a picture of an elephant trampling on a Democratic platform, and the Republicans adopted the elephant as its symbol. Although in China, the definition of an elephant is an animal that has no use. You know the word white elephant? You ever hear that? You know why it's a problem? Because in India, a white elephant is a sacred object. And you cannot make it work or make it do anything. All you can do is feed it. And so when you have an enemy and you want to do him a disfavor, you give him a white elephant. You can't sell it, you can't get rid of it, you can't work it. All you can do is feed it. And they eat pretty good. And that's, I think, apropos for the Republican Party. Now, we're coming back because the pendulum is swinging the other way. This party this Republican Party got where it got dependent upon, you know what? White, Anglo-Saxon people, and disdained the blacks, Hispanics, Jews. They claim they have a big tent, but it's hard to get in. So we as a party are open to ideas, open to new concepts. We as a party want government to help people. We believe that government should serve people, not be dependent upon people except when we need them. And I know that I've been criticized. I don't back away from the fact that every opportunity I had, I was the last governor to give any meaningful raises to school teachers and lunchroom workers. Last governor to pay any attention to civil servants. I stand for the raise in the minimum wage. People say, oh, it's only about teenagers. It's not so. 56% of the people who benefit from the raise in minimum wage are women. 27% of them, 27% of them are heads of households. They can't live on $8 a year, a month, with an hour. Foster's talking about how these Republican politicians lie. Well, certainly they do. Reminds me of the story of the fellow who had a 16-year-old boy who was given to lying all the time. Couldn't do anything with him. Heard one day that a fellow in a distant town had invented a robot that could tell if people were lying, and if you told a lie in the presence of the robot, it would hit you. So he took his wife and his son to the fellow's business place, and he explained to the son, he said, now look, I'm going to ask you some questions. Tell you going in. If you lie, this robot's going to slap you. What did you do in school yesterday? He said, well, Daddy, at 8 o'clock I had English, 10 o'clock I had math. With that, the robot slapped the devil out of him, knocked him against the wall. They said, okay, son, tell me, what did you do now? He said, well, Daddy, I skipped school yesterday. You lazy, no good, lying, SOB, I don't understand what I could do with you. How can you be that way? And his wife said, well, hon, remember, he's your son. And with that, the robot slapped the hell out of her. We need to put some of these Republicans in a room with the robot and find out. Well, it ain't all lost. Let me tell you something. You got one chance of sending, now look, I know this is not the proper place to talk about running for Congress, so I'm not going to mention it. But you got one chance of sending a Democrat to Congress, and you're looking at it. you're too old. Well, there's a guy 101 years old in Florida running for the first time. And by the time I'm 101, I'll be in my 7th term. I've been up there. I know what it's like. I must have been a good congressman because every time I ran for re-election, I had no opposition or very little, and I got re-elected by large majorities. And when I ran for governor in 1971 in the Democratic primary, there were 20 of us. I got 55% of the vote in the 7th Congressional District. Practically none anywhere else. But it was enough to put me in a runoff with a young man from Shreveport. Now, and I kept getting re-elected. You know why? Because I was here. I didn't want to be governor of California or New York or Florida. I wanted to be governor of Louisiana. Whenever there was a problem, I was here to work on it. Oh, they criticized me for some of the things I said and did, but I did it. People were working. The budget was in balance. We were getting billions of dollars of extra money from North Carolina, South Carolina, New York, Massachusetts using our oil and gas. And we were getting benefits from it for the benefit of the people of this state. Since I got out of prison, yeah, I've been in prison. True story. We were eating lunch in Cracker Barrel today, and this nice couple was sitting next to us, and they had a little 7-year-old girl. And we were talking, nice people, and in the course of the conversation, I said something about, well, since I got out of prison, I hear nothing but complaints about it. And the little girl said, you in prison? I said, yeah. She said, what for? I said, well, because some people lied about me. But on that subject, my age and my conviction are a problem for me. But if this was a foot race, some of those people could probably beat me. But this is a political race, and it's going to be a different outcome. I know what I'm doing. I know what this district needs. I know how to work with other members of Congress. And like I tell people, don't worry, Sham, I can't make it any worse than it is. Kind of like this third baseman having a bad time at a baseball game, missed the pop-up fly, let a fella run to home past him, ground drive went right through his legs, everything he did was bad. And there was a heckler sitting on the third base section. Kept heckling him, get him out, throw the ball out, he's no good. Every time something happened, he got bad criticism. So finally, in anger, he walked up to the stands and he threw the glove at the fella. He said, here, mister, you come do it. All you do is holler and complain and criticize. So he said, sure, I'll do it, give me the glove. So he went third base, same thing. Pop-up fly miss. Somebody threw him a ball to stop a runner. He missed the ball. The runner made home plate. He was having a bad time, couldn't do anything. Finally, the old third baseman walked up to him and said, say, you see, fella, it's not so easy, is it? And he said, listen, mister, you had messed it up so bad, nobody could do anything with it. We can do some things in Washington. I'm not going to say to you we're going to solve the national debt overnight or the deficit. But I can work with other people in helping to get the pipeline built, which we need very badly. And I can work with other members of Congress to try to get something done rather than just shut down the government, which is not what we go up there for. We're going up there to serve the people. Pierre walking out the house with a fishing pole. Marie said, "Where you going, Pierre?" "Michelle, don't you saw I got a fishing pole? I'm going fishing." That's the way them Cajuns talk. I try to talk like them every now and then. She said, "Look, the sink is stopped up. Why don't you stay here and fix that sink?" He said, "Do I have plumber written on my forehead?" She said, "No." He said, "Well, I'm going fishing." Next day, same thing. "Where you going? Fishing." "Well, look, Pierre, the light on the back porch don't come on. Stay here and fix that light." "Do I have electrician written on my forehead?" "No." "Well, I'm going fishing." Third day. "Where you going, Pierre?" "I'm going fishing." He said, "Look, the front door is about to fall off the hinge. Why don't you stay here and fix that door?" He said, "Do you see carpenter written on my forehead?" She said, "No." He said, "Well, I'm going fishing." Came back that afternoon. The light was working, the sink was unstopped, the front door was hanging properly. And he said, "Marie, you got all that fixed today while I was gone?" And she said, "Well, yeah." He said, "Well, how did you do that?" She said, "Well, you know your friend Jean from Bro Bridge? He come to visit you, and you weren't here. He spent the day, and while he was here, he fixed all that for me." And Pierre said, "Well, that's really nice of Jean. What did you have to pay him?" And she said, "Well, he told me I could either bake him a cake or go to bed with him." But he said, "What kind of cake did you bake him?" "Do you see Betty Crocker written on my phone?"